I've achieved a point in life where I have money to invest and I'm starting to put money into a pension. I want to know that the funds I invest in direct my money towards companies I'm happy with, like those supplying basic necessities of life, healthy food, clothing, water and housing, and at the same time don't invest in industries I'd rather not support.
It's important you know where you invest your money. By directing money towards companies that take ethical, social and environmental issues seriously, what you're doing is sending a strong message to companies that there are people out there who are investing who care about more than simply making a profit. Like ethical consumerism, ethical investment sends strong signals to companies that can actually help to drive positive change.
Friends Providence ethical funds are not only just about doing good, but also producing attractive financial returns. We invest in a range of companies across the globe, both large and small. We tend to be underweight in larger companies because the bigger companies find it more difficult to comply to our strict financial and ethical criteria, and therefore, relative to most other funds, we tend to be significantly overweight in medium and especially smaller companies. All the companies we invest into have to meet both our strict financial and ethical criteria, but we've proved since our start in 1984 that both strong financial returns and ethics mix very well indeed.
My ethical fund aims to invest in companies that have good relations with suppliers, customers and employees. The fund pays close attention to equal opportunities, diversity, rewards and consultation. It avoids many companies on ethical grounds, such as those involved in armaments or tobacco, or those with poor records in human rights, corruption or the environment.
Ethical funds really do vary greatly. They tend to focus on two different approaches. Many of them tend to avoid companies that are believed to have a negative impact on people or the environment. And others, sometimes in the same approach, same fund, tend to take an approach whereby they're looking to direct money towards companies that are seen as being beneficial to society, having a positive impact on people and the environment. This often means considering a very wide range of issues. These issues can be split broadly into three areas: ethical, social and environmental. Ethical includes things like worrying about investment in the arms trade, companies with military activity, and also areas like concern for investing in tobacco companies. Social can include things like concern for human rights, labour standards and supply chain management, whereas environmental, of course, means things like concern for climate change, environmental pollution and biodiversity, for example. Ethical investment is an increasingly popular concept, with in excess of £6 billion now invested on behalf of around 500,000 investors in the UK alone. But it's really important you know what you're buying, both from an ethical and from a financial perspective. Ethical funds can be quite risky and they won't suit all the people all of the time, so it's important you make sure you get proper financial advice when you're looking at products like these.
I want my investment to be in companies that are both successful and operate responsibly. I want to support companies which have good relations with their stakeholders, including suppliers and local communities, and also manage their environmental impacts well. That way, I can feel comfortable about making a decent return.
Stewardship was launched back in 1984 to give individual investors, who cared about more than just investment returns, somewhere to invest their money. The earliest aims of stewardship were threefold: to exclude companies that didn't meet the ethical standards of the fund, to support good companies that make a positive contribution to society through buying their shares, and to encourage better business practices through share ownership and dialogue. The fund's ethical policies are kept up to date by an external committee of reference, which I chair. We also vet all companies before the fund managers are allowed to invest in them. This means that only companies that the committee has approved can make it into the stewardship funds.
Remember, the value of an investment is not guaranteed and can go up and down dependent on the investment performance, and you may get back less than you have paid in.
I want my investment to be in companies that are both successful and operate responsibly. I want to support companies which have good relations with their stakeholders, including suppliers and local communities, and also manage their environmental impacts well. That way, I can feel comfortable about making a decent return. I know that my fund balances a range of real-life dilemmas as it invests in companies that are ever-changing. The fund weighs up pros and cons and makes pragmatic decisions, as do I. The aim is to strike a reasonable balance that people like me are comfortable with. The other thing I like is the level of dialogue that goes on behind the scenes, with the fund managers encouraging companies to improve their practices. By supporting this type of investment approach, I am joining with others so that money can be used for future improvements.